This is the second part of the lesson, and in this part we're going to talk about what are called literal equations. A literal equation is an equation with two or more variables, and you're going to solve for a specific variable. So you're not going to solve like for just one variable like x equals 5. You're going to have variables in your answer, so x equals 5 plus b or something like that. So what I have here is on the left I have a regular equation that you're used to solving, and on the right I have a literal equation with that has letters instead of numbers. So on number 11, how would you solve that? You would add 7, and you would add 7 to get x by itself, and so you'd have x is equal to 8 plus 7 is 15. Okay? Now that one you can write in set notation, and just for practice, go ahead and do that. Now for number 12, we're going to solve this equation for x. So x minus b equals a, we're going to solve it for x. So I want to get x by itself. You're going to do exactly the same thing, and so that's why we have it set up this way. You can do exactly the same thing. So I'm trying to get x by itself, so I'm going to add b. I'm going to have x is equal to a plus b. Now they're not like terms, I can't do anything, so that's just your answer. Now when we have literal equations, we do not write them in set notation because there's not really a set value to them. They are variables. So we're just going to write it like that. So you do exactly the same step, and so I have a regular equation set up just like the literal equation. So let's just do those practice. So on number 13, solve that one. You're going to divide by 4. Negative 12 divided by 4 is negative 3. Okay, so that's my equation answer. Now number 14, I'm going to have negative 3k equals m. What do? I'm going to solve for k. That means I have to get negative 3 out of there. So it says negative 3 times k. So I'm going to divide by negative 3. Divide by negative 3. So I'm going to have k is equal to m divided by negative 3. That's it. I'm not going to do anything else with it. I can't. I'm done. And that's solving a literal equation. So why don't you go ahead and pause the video, do number 15 and then number 16, and see if you get the right answer. Okay, for number 15, you're going to multiply both sides by negative 8 because it says divide by negative 8, so we're going to do the opposite to solve, because when you solve, you do the opposite operation. So I'm going to have x is equal to 11 times negative 8 is negative 88. On the right, to solve it for y, I need to get rid of the 3. It says y divided by 3, so I'm going to multiply by 3. And I always write 3 over 1, so it's balanced, so it has a numerator and a denominator. And then over here, I'm going to multiply by 3. I don't write the 3 over 1 there because the h doesn't have a denominator, so it's balanced. And 3h. You might write h3, but that's not really how we write it. In math, we write the coefficient first and then the variable, so write it like that. And then these are a little bit more complicated. They're like 2 steps. And so to solve for v, so make sure you're paying attention to which variable you're going to solve for. So I'm going to solve for that one. That means I have to get rid of the 7 and I have to get rid of the 5. So which one should I take off first? So think about it like an onion. You're going to peel off the layers of the onion, and if you peel off the outer layer first, that's how it's going to work. So depending on how you learned how to solve a 2-step equation, you're going to think about just saving this part. This term comes last. So I'm going to subtract 5. So I'm going to have 3d minus 5 is equal to 7v. I cannot do anything with 3d minus 5. So that's fine, just leave it. And now to get the v by itself, I have to divide by 7. So I'm going to divide the entire other side by 7. And my answer is going to have all of those things. No problem, no big deal. You're going to have a fraction. You're going to have letters. You're going to have a lot of things going on, but that's how some equations are. And this does have applications later on. Right now we're just learning how to work through solving for these things. So we'll see later on what we're going to do with them. So number 18, if I'm solving for h, leave this part alone. Get rid of that part first. So I'm going to subtract 10. The 10 is positive, so I'm going to subtract it. The negative goes with a 2. So 10 minus 10, and then 7a minus 10 is just 7a minus 10. Cannot do anything with it. Equals, don't forget that there's a negative in front of the 2h. And then I'm going to divide by negative 2, and the other side gets divided by negative 2. The entire other side gets divided by negative 2. And that's your answer. Now, one of the uses that we have for solving literal equations is we can use that to help solve a problem easier when I don't know something. So before, when you've done area of a parallelogram or something, you're given the base and the height and you have to find the area. Well, what if you're given the height and the area and you have to find the base? Well, we can manipulate that. So what if we solve this for height? It says b times h, so I'm going to divide by b, so I'm going to have a divided by b is equal to h. So the area of a parallelogram divided by the base is equal to the height. And I can use that depending on what I'm given. It might be more useful to know that. Number 20, this is an area of a triangle, and so area is equal to 1/2 base times height. What if I solve it for b? So it's 1/2 times b times h. So I have two things to get rid of. So I can divide by 1/2 or multiply by the reciprocal, and then I can divide by height. So 2a divided by the height is equal to the base. I actually could do all of that in one step if I thought about it. So I could say I'm going to divide by 1/2 h, but I really need to know that what I'm doing over here, because I don't want to leave it like a divided by 1/2 h. Having a fraction in the denominator of a fraction is not really simplified. So that's why I'd probably say do it in two separate steps so that you write the correct thing. So it's going to be 2a divided by h equals b. And then 21 is the circumference of a circle. C is equal to 2 times pi times r. And I want you to solve it for r, so get rid of 2 times pi. I can just divide by 2 pi in one step. So c divided by 2 pi equals r. And that's it. Okay, 22 and 23, just a couple of others. These aren't formulas for anything in particular. I just want you to practice. So you can look on the notes and see if you get the right answers for that. I'm not going to go over it in this video. And then the last part of your notes, I have this summary of how to write all of the notations that we talked about today. So how do you say it in words? How do you say it with a graph? Or how do you say it with a symbol, set notation, interval notation? And so you can look like if we say x is greater than 3, here's how we say it as an inequality, as an interval, as set notation. Now, one thing I have that might be helpful for you for this lesson is I have one more video with just some additional examples. So there's some additional examples on your paper, and you may or may not need help with them, but you should be able to solve them already. And so those are all equations that I expect that you can already solve, but you might need some practice with that. So I do want you to do at least half of them, whether it's on your own or using the video or the notes to help you through it, but you should be able to do every single type of those. I'm going to have a different video following now with extra examples, and I'll go over a few of the examples on that paper.